With Raccoon City reduced to ash, the world believed the nightmare was finally over. But for the survivors, the war had only just begun. Claire Redfield refused to stop searching for her brother Chris. Her investigation eventually led her to Paris, where she infiltrated an umbrella facility, only to be captured and transported to a remote prison complex known as Rockfort Island. But Rockfort wasn't just a prison, it was another umbrella stronghold. Shortly after Claire's arrival, the island descended into chaos when a rival organization launched an attack to steal the T. Veronica virus. During the outbreak, Claire escaped alongside another prisoner named Steve Burnside, and together they fought through infected guards, monsters, and the twisted legacy of the Ashford family. The island's commander, Alfred Ashford, was mentally unstable and obsessed with his twin sister, Alexia. Through hidden files and recordings, Claire uncovered the horrifying truth. Alexia Ashford had spent 15 years in cryogenic sleep, allowing her body to fully bond with a new strain known as the T. Veronica virus. When Alfred was mortally wounded, he awakened her. Alexia emerged no longer human, but something far worse. A powerful bioorganic weapon capable of controlling mutated organisms and incinerating enemies with terrifying ease. Before the outbreak spiraled completely out of control, Claire managed to send a distress signal to Leon Kennedy, who contacted her brother. And so, for the first time since the mansion incident, Chris Redfield returned. But Chris wasn't the only ghost from the past waiting on the island. There, he encountered the man everyone believed had died inside the Spencer mansion, Albert Wesker. The virus Wesker had injected before his death had resurrected him, granting him superhuman speed, strength, and reflexes. His humanity was fading, replaced by cold ambition and an obsession with evolution. Now working for a mysterious rival organization, Wesker had begun collecting viral weapons for his own agenda. Chris tried to stop him and was effortlessly defeated. Claire and Steve eventually escaped Rockfort Island aboard a transport aircraft, but their escape ended in disaster when they crash-landed at an umbrella facility deep in Antarctica. Chris followed them there, determined to save his sister. But tragedy struck before he arrived. Steve was captured and infected with the T. Veronica virus, mutating into a monstrous creature. Yet even after losing control, fragments of his humanity remained. In his final moments, he turned against Alexia's influence long enough to protect Claire before dying in her arms. Deep beneath the Antarctic base, Chris finally confronted Alexia Ashford. After a brutal battle, he destroyed her using a prototype linear launcher, incinerating the last heir of the Ashford family. Chris and Claire escaped before the facility collapsed into the frozen wasteland. But Wesker still achieved his true objective. Whether through Steve's body or Alexia's remains, he secured the T. Veronica virus for himself. As Chris swore to destroy Umbrella forever, Wesker quietly disappeared into the shadows, preparing for something far greater. Following the destruction of Raccoon City and the exposure of Rockfort Island, governments around the world finally moved against Umbrella Corporation. In 2003, Chris Redfield and Jill Valentine led an assault on Umbrella's final major stronghold in the Caucasus region. They destroyed the TALOS Tyrant, shut down Umbrella's remaining facilities, and officially brought the corporation to collapse. The age of Umbrella was over, but its research survived. Umbrella's data, viruses, and bioweapons spread across the black market, sold to terrorists, corporations, and rogue states. bioterrorism was no longer hidden in laboratories. It had become a global threat. In 2004, Leon S. Kennedy, now a hardened U.S. government agent, was sent to a remote village in Spain to rescue the president's kidnapped daughter, Ashley Graham. But what Leon discovered there was unlike anything seen before. The villagers were not zombies. They were called Los Ganados, intelligent hosts controlled by an ancient parasite known as Las Plagas. The cult behind the infection, Los Illuminados, was led by Osmond Sadler, who planned to infect Ashley and use her to gain control of the United States government itself. Leon fought through infected villagers, grotesque monsters, the towering village chief Vitoris Mendez, and the fanatical Castellan Ramon Salazar. And once again, Ada Wong appeared. Ada was now working directly for Wesker, tasked with obtaining a dominant Plaga sample. But as always, her true loyalties remained unclear. In the end, Leon defeated Sadler with Ada's help and escaped the island alongside Ashley moments before the facility self-destructed. But Ada betrayed Wesker, secretly giving him a subordinate Plaga sample instead of the dominant strain he wanted. Even so, Wesker now possessed an arsenal of viruses and parasites unlike anything the world had ever seen. And by 2009, he was finally ready to use them. The BSAA, the Bioterrorism Security Assessment Alliance, had been formed to combat global outbreaks. Chris Redfield, now one of its leading agents, was deployed to Africa alongside Shiva Alamar to investigate illegal bioweapon trafficking. What they uncovered was horrifying. Wesker had orchestrated everything. Using a modified progenitor strain known as Ouroboros, he planned to force humanity into a new stage of evolution. Those deemed weak would die instantly, while the worthy would survive and become superior beings under his rule. To accomplish this, Wesker intended to launch Ouroboros missiles across the planet, but Chris uncovered an even more personal nightmare. Jill Valentine was alive. Years earlier, Jill had disappeared during a confrontation with Wesker at Spencer's estate. Wesker had kept her in stasis, using a device called P-30 to brainwash her into becoming his personal weapon. Chris and Shiva eventually freed Jill from Wesker's control and pursued him across Africa, finally confronting him inside a volcano after he injected himself with Ouroboros. Mutating into a massive creature of tendrils and black mass, Wesker became the very monster he had spent his life trying to create. But Chris and Shiva refused to stop. Using rocket launchers, they blasted Wesker into molten lava, finally ending the man responsible for decades of death and bioterrorism. Albert Wesker was dead, but his death didn't save the world. It made things worse. Without Umbrella or Wesker controlling the black market, bioweapons spread faster than ever before. Soon, new outbreaks emerged across the globe. By 2013, a new virus appeared, the C virus. Created by combining the G virus with T. Veronica research, the C virus allowed rapid mutations and horrifying transformations. Entire cities fell within hours. One outbreak struck Tall Oaks, where Leon Kennedy was forced to shoot the President of the United States after he became infected. At the same time, Chris Redfield led BSAA forces into China, where a massive bioterror attack was already underway. Behind everything stood Derek C. Simmons, a national security advisor obsessed with controlling the world from the shadows. Using the C virus, Simmons created monstrous mutations and even an unstable clone of Ada Wong herself. As global chaos spread, multiple survivors crossed paths once again. Leon, Chris, Ada, Sherry Birkin, Helena Harper, and Jake Muller, the secret son of Albert Wesker. The battles culminated in China, where Simmons transformed repeatedly into increasingly grotesque forms, while Chris and his squad fought a massive bioweapon known as House. During the mission, Chris's partner, Piers Nivens, sacrificed himself after infecting his own body with the C virus to save Chris and destroy the creature. Humanity survived, but barely. The era of isolated outbreaks was over. Bioterrorism had evolved into a global war without borders. And although Umbrella and Wesker were gone, the fear they created would continue to spread across the world for years to come. Because in the world of Resident Evil, evil never truly dies.